Hello, Feisties. I'm Sarah Gross, CEO and founder of Feisty Media. And I'm here to tell you that our foundational strength training course, Strong, is on sale now through April 10th. If you're like me, you probably get a lot of crap in your Instagram or Facebook feed telling you how you should look or how you will feel if you look a certain way. As summer approaches, this only gets worse. We are told we should have a quote-unquote summer body, as if our bodies somehow morph into something completely different just because the weather changes. And frankly, over here at Feisty Media, we are totally sick of it. Because at Feisty, our vision is to build an empowering culture for active women. We want to shift our attention away from what our bodies look like and focus instead on what our bodies can do. Especially during the summer months, when having the physical strength to do the activities we love is so important. The Strong course is designed to take any woman, regardless of your starting point, through everything you need to know to level up your strength training journey. It includes a 16-week program to help you progress from wherever you are to lifting heavy or heavy-ish with dumbbells or a barbell. It also includes modules on the physiology of strength training for women, nutrition, how we keep ourselves injury-free, and more. I want every woman to be able to do the things that bring her joy and be strong enough to do them for life. Enrollment in this course is now open, and you can sign up and learn more at womensperformance.com/strong, or check the show notes of this episode for the link. And for those of you who are among the 800 women who have already taken the Strong course with one of our previous cohorts, congratulations on taking the plunge. And to the rest of you, see you in the course in April. Make this summer your strongest and best ever. Head over to womensperformance.com/strong today.
Welcome to All Bodies on Bikes, the podcast, where all bodies are good bodies, all bikes are good bikes, and all rides should be celebrated.
All Bodies on Bikes is a movement to create and foster a size-inclusive bike community. So join your hosts, I'm Maggie.
And I'm Marley.
As we explore the complexities of the biking world, help us break down barriers and create the world that we want to see. And don't forget that all bodies really means all bodies, not just larger bodies, but bodies of all sizes, ages, races, abilities, genders, sexualities, and beyond.
Come along for the ride. Welcome back to the All Bodies on Bikes podcast. Maggie, it has been a minute.
It's been so many minutes.
How you doing, friend?
It's been so many minutes. I'm great. How are you?
I'm not great, but I'm okay.
Okay.
We're just having that like post-event come down. I don't know if we've ever talked about it on the show before, but and especially after MidSouth, there's just a lot of feelings happening right now and kind of having a massive dopamine crash. Like,
yeah.
It's real hard to go to like the most epic weekend and get hugs from every single person you know and love, and then to come home to like my sad, lonely life in Bentonville.
I mean, I didn't even get the fun of being there. So I'm now dealing with FOMO for my FOMO.
That's fair.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, not to like, what's it called? Like rub dirt in a wound or rub salt in a wound. But you missed a really good weekend.
Yeah. Oh, I could tell. I had to turn off Slack notifications because I was like, I will spend my entire weekend hating my life if I don't turn off Slack notifications. And then I forgot Instagram was a thing.
Yeah, that just means we have to get you out there next year. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, to bring the listeners in, MidSouth Gravel just happened. It's one of my favorite events of the entire calendar. And it's such a fun way to kick off the gravel cycling season.
Okay.
This was my third year attending. It happens in Stillwater, Oklahoma. And maybe folks remember, I don't know. I was DFL last year.
Yeah, you were.
And DFL means dead effing last, the very last person to come across the finish line. And at most races, it's not a big deal. You're lucky if like the finish line is still there. But
Yep.
Mid-South, has always, I think because always is like the 12th year, has always made an effort to celebrate the back of the pack and make sure that they are
Heck yeah.
there when the last person comes in. And I know I had an absolutely surreal experience last year, and we are lucky to have this year's DFL winner on the show with us today.
Woo!
Yeah. And it's even cooler because she's one of us.
She is.
Yeah. We'll talk all about her, but we know Beth well, and I was tracking her all day long. I have so much to say about this. It's wild. So I rode the 58 mile. I was gonna ride the 100 mile. For folks who listen every week, you probably know this, but I'm so glad I made the decision to ride the 58 mile instead of the 100 because it meant I got to go back and hang out and wait for all my friends to come in. But also on top of that, all bodies on bikes through the official DFL party this year. So we teamed
Nice.
up with Ride with GPS, and I didn't have numbers for context because I was out riding last year. So I didn't know how many people were there. You come in, and Beth will attest to this in a few minutes, but it is just absolutely overwhelming, and you're lucky to like see the person in front of you, let alone 500 people, 1,000 people that are there. But what I heard from everybody was that like they had never seen anything like this before. We took over a bar, there was a photo booth, there was dancing, there was food, there was music. It was incredible. And I think it's going to become a tradition. I think All Bodies on Bikes is going to continue to throw the DFL party,
Hell
which
yeah.
is super, super fun. But should we go ahead and introduce Beth and get into the really fun conversation?
Yeah, we should.
Cool. Do you want to read her bio?
I would love to.
Thanks,
I would
Maggie.
love to introduce everyone to Beth. We love Beth. Beth McBride is our guest today. Beth lives in Lake Mills, Wisconsin. I'm going to pretend like I know state abbreviations. Is Wisconsin correct?
That is correct. Yes.
Great. Beth lives in Lake Mills, Wisconsin, a small town near Madison, Wisconsin. If I'd read a little further, she discovered the joy of cycling late in life and now finds every opportunity she can to ride bikes and to inspire folks who never thought they could be a cyclist to just get on a bike and ride. And that is Beth. And Beth, welcome to the All Bodies on Bikes podcast.
Thank you so much for having me here. This still seems like so unreal, like not like even possible, right? So had a great weekend with Marley and everybody at MidSouth. And Maggie, I know it's been a hot minute since we had a chance to talk. I think probably SBT, right? In August was the last time
August.
we had a chance to talk. So
Yeah.
So thank you so much.
So I can't remember if I already said this, but Beth was on our 2023 Steamboat Gravel team.
Yes.
So she's been part of our little community for over a year now, and it has been just so incredible to watch your journey. So let's get into that a little bit. I know you've been chasing this gravel century for a long time now, and you did it. So, without even getting into the DFL stuff, because that's like a whole nother can of worms. What is getting your 100-mile century? What does it mean to you?
So I have to tell you that I've been practicing really hard today to talk about this without crying and tearing up, but I don't know that I can.
That's fine.
That
I'm
is
already
okay.
starting to cry a little bit. But 100-mile bike ride, that's just like an achievement, right? It's like if you're a cyclist, that's something that you strive to do, your 100-mile bike ride to get your, metric or imperial century in. And I've been trying really hard to do this, right, for at least a year, if not a little bit longer than that. And some of the things, that impede me are I'm slow. I'm not necessarily a fast cyclist. And there's not a lot of race events that are going to let you just keep on riding to get that done. I know I have the endurance, right, to get it done. I'm pretty gritty and committed to riding, and I love going long distances, but I've just never had an opportunity to be able to do that. At SBT Gravel last year, I had signed up for the 100-mile race, and I knew it was a hard decision for me. I knew at that first cutoff that there was just no way I was going to be able to meet the time cutoff. So it was a very crushing feeling for me that I had to deal with. So being able to finally get my century at MidSouth, I think is really special. And I feel like this is the place where it was supposed to happen. It took me a long ass time on that bike to get it. And I mean, I knew it was going to happen. So it's very special for me to say that I've done it and I did it at MidSouth. in pretty epic fashion. So
yeah. And I mean, I don't want you to beat yourself up too bad because, you know, there's other things happening. You know, at Steamboat Gravel, you're at almost 7,000 feet of elevation, and Wisconsin is not. So there's that.
no.
And I know you went to like Grounded, Nebraska, and I think you and Marina were you DFL there as well in like the shorter distance?
Marina was DFL. I beat her by like 10 seconds.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, that day was like exceedingly hot.
Right.
So it's not like you've been like, I don't know, doing all these easy things. And it's like, oh, I just didn't feel like it. No, like you've been up against some very, very real challenges. And yeah, do you want to do another century, or is it like, check, done?
No, I would love to do more centuries. I would love to do longer distances actually. But again, the whole problem is that I run into that fact that I'm just not fast enough to meet those cutoff times. But I would love to try like a double century. I think that would be a pretty epic achievement. And I feel like I could do it.
Yeah. I mean, I know you can. You like you said, you have the endurance. It's just a matter of, will the course be open long enough for it to happen?
Yep.
Yeah. Well, let's back up a little bit and talk about, you know, your broader involvement with All Bodies on Bikes. You know, we already talked about you were on the Steamboat Gravel team, but what inspired you to apply? And, you know, what does having a community like All Bodies on Bikes mean to you?
Yeah. So even to back it up a little bit further, I started riding road bikes, right? Like really late in my life. It wasn't until after I met my husband and after we had our daughter that I'm like, oh, I'm going to start riding, you know, influenced by my husband, who is a road cyclist. And that's where I started. And I have to tell you, I never felt like I really fit into that scene, and just, you know, my body just never really fit on a road bike. So I did it, but it's not something where, you know, I felt immense joy from. And one of my friends who rode gravel, I'd never heard of it, was like, hey, you should ride Gravel Worlds in Lincoln, Nebraska. Just take your road bike and put some bigger tires on it. I'm like, okay, let's do that. So my first experience ever on gravel was in Lincoln, Nebraska at Gravel Worlds on the privateer course, like 78 miles. I was petrified, but I got it done.
Yeah.
And that's where I met you, Marley. And like, I started following you on social media and just seeing like that, you know, the activism and the work that you've done to make sure folks in larger bodies and all bodies had a chance to be a part of, you know, cycling. So that's where it started. And then I'm like, I want an epic, like, adventure. Let's apply it to Steamboat Gravel. Why not? That seems pretty epic. So that's kind of the evolution, you know, really a quick evolution description of where I got to this point.
Dang.
And it's all because of All Bodies and Bikes.
I think I knew that. I remember meeting you at Grounded Worlds, or not Grounded Worlds, Gravel Worlds.
Right.
I had COVID.
You did have COVID.
Yeah, I was like, we were just off of Steamboat Gravel, I think. And I was exhausted and I didn't know why. I was like, maybe I've just been burning the candle. And I had COVID. I don't think I gave it to anybody, but I ended up not even riding in that event because I was so sick.
I remember.
Yeah. But good for you doing that 78, because people think people think Nebraska, like, oh, it's in Oklahoma, not hilly. Oh, it is very hilly.
The gravel, right? The gravel was something I just wasn't expecting. You know, it was pretty chunky.
Yeah.
And I said it was just like terrifying. I had no idea how to descend in gravel, right? I really didn't know how to climb through gravel. So that to me was probably, well, early on, one of the most difficult rides I had ever done, just because I didn't have the knowledge in the background. It just, you know, my friend's like, you could do it. So I'm like, all right, I'll do it. And I did DFL that year.
Nice.
But I was so proud, right? When I came across and I'm like, I just did that, you know, and that was amazing to say I did it. So
that's one of the things I love about you is like just your tenacity of like, I'm going to try this and let's do it. So I also want to back up really quickly. You've said a couple times, I started cycling late in life. Like I'd say middle life. Like, I don't know if you want to tell folks how old you are, because on a podcast you can't see, but like, you're not elderly.
Well, getting closer. I am 50. I actually can't believe that when I say that I'm 50, I don't feel like 50, right? So yeah, I think it's because I have so many young friends. All of you are also young, and I think that helps quite a bit too. So
yeah, definitely. So anyway, I wanted to clear that up. So if folks were like, wait, what's actually going on here? Well,
Yeah.
should we get into your Mid-South ride?
Yeah.
Real quickly, were you already on? Did you already do Payson's podcast?
Not yet.
Okay. Okay. We got her first. You heard it here first. But Beth is going to be on Payson McAlpin's podcast, which is also really exciting.
Amazing.
Again, what world am I living in right now? Right? Just yeah.
Yeah, a little glimpse into my life. It just kind of takes over. But yeah, so for Mid-South, what were your goals going into the ride?
Yeah, so as always, my number one goal is to finish. I commit to finishing. I still keep it as a goal, but unless something horribly goes wrong, I know that I will finish. So number one, finish. Number two, just have fun, right?
Yes.
I know I'm a slow rider, and sometimes I have kind of like timelines in my mind of when I should be finishing, but I just take it as an opportunity to enjoy being out on the bike, enjoy being in a new environment, seeing nature around me, right? Meeting new people, and just having the opportunity to connect, with the land that I'm riding on. So those are always my goals. And I mean, if we're talking like, when did I think I was going to finish? In my mind, I'm like, oh, I'll finish in 12 hours. And obviously that kind of got blown out of the window.
Do you remember what your finishing time was?
16 hours.
16 hours. That's,
Yeah.
I mean, I think last year I did it in 14 hours and
Yeah.
30 minutes or something. So, and my unbound time was 16 hours. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's still a good time. Like,
yeah, I'm not focused on that time whatsoever. I also, it was interesting because on the bike, I really lost track of like what time it was and like how long I had been on the bike. I never, during that ride, ever felt like, oh my gosh, this is horrible. When is it going to finish? I was just having fun and riding. I was tracking my miles, so I knew kind of where I was, but I never ever felt like, get me off this bike, right? So, and I think that's why I lost track of time. So
that is incredible to hear that you never once were like, get me off this bike.
Mhm.
At any point, did you get to like, man, I this ride, like, this is incredible. I want it to go on forever?
I wouldn't say that. And do you know why? Because when we finished, right, it was dark out there, right? I'm afraid of the dark, and I'm afraid of dogs. And it was really quiet and pitch black out in those gravel worlds. Not gravel worlds, gravel roads is what I meant to say. So that in itself had me just kind of uneasy, and I really tried to face my insecurities there and just ride and just not think about like bad possibilities. But yeah, I wouldn't say wanted to go on forever only because of that aspect, but
That's totally fair. That's yeah. Did you already talked about, there weren't really any times when you doubted your ability to finish.
no,
But overall, I mean, it sounds like you enjoyed the ride.
I did.
If I remember correctly, you had a ride buddy. I know when you came across the finish line, at what point did you guys link up and start riding together?
Yeah, so I'd say right around mile 75 is when we kind of started riding together. She had passed me at one point earlier, and then she went off faster than me. But I think around mile 75 is where we kind of like reconnected again, and we played a little bit of leapfrog, right, back and forth. And then when it got dark, we finally like met up at that point because I think both of us were a little uneasy, right, about being in the pitch blackness on the roads alone. So I think around mile 75 is probably where, we reconnected and stayed together. So
That's so cool. At what point did the Jeeps catch up to you?
I think right before the single track.
Okay.
A lot of the ride is blending together, right? So I think it was before the single track.
Yeah.
That's when, they caught up to us.
Did they, so last year, because I was out there all alone, they turned on the lights for me.
Yeah.
They asked me if I wanted music. Did you have that sort of interaction with them at all?
Yeah, they gave us lights, and it was like so amazing, right, to finally be able to see, because we were taking it really slow, like down the descents, right? Because we couldn't see, we didn't know like what we were riding on. So it really slowed our time down, not being able to see. I was worried about my battery, too, because I hadn't really planned on being out in the dark quite that long. And I should have brought like an additional, headlights. I should have brought another battery for my head unit. So like I had everything turned as low as possible. I could barely see from the headlight. And then my head unit, I didn't have the backlight on. So I had no idea what time it was. I had no idea like where we were, so yeah, I was really grateful for the Jeeps to come.
Oh my
really
gosh.
awesome people.
I'm just imagining like conserving as much batter as you can.
Oh
It
my
just
gosh. At one point, I had contemplated like, let me stop at a farmhouse that looks like maybe, folks would be willing to help, and asking if I could buy a flashlight from them and like duct taping it to my bike. That was in
Incredible.
the back of my mind. Like, how can I like not be afraid of these roads and be able to
yeah.
see? So
Did you have any encounters with dogs?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
dogs really make me so nervous. That's why in my event write up, I talk about the surprise dogs that all of a sudden there they are and chasing. And, I feel like most of them are probably friendly, but I don't necessarily know that. Right. And
Right.
it's startling when they are there
Yeah.
chasing you. So,
And you're startling them, and it's dogs are, I
exactly.
mean, we have wild, I don't know if they're wild, but they feel wild dogs here in Arkansas, and it's scary. And honestly, like
Yeah.
that's when I get some of my fastest times is when like I get that adrenaline spike and I'm
Yep.
just like boom, off the road. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I have a question as someone who has not mid-southed before because I've seen pictures, but I would like some more. Who are the Jeeps? Like I saw the pictures with the Jeeps, but what is happening there?
You
Yeah,
wanna take
Marley,
it?
why don't you take it?
Sure.
I don't know their official name.
Yeah,
I
so
think
it's the Red Dirt Jeep Club of Oklahoma. So Oklahoma is known for its red dirt, which I recently learned is like iron ore and iron oxide,
Nice.
which is actually bacteria poop from millions and millions of years ago. I went
Amazing.
deep on some podcasts recently.
All
Anyway, so it's the Red Dirt Jeep Club, and Bobby Wintle, who is like the famed Bobby of Mid-South, has made all these incredible relationships with the community, and that's one of them. So the Red Dirt Jeep Club comes out every year and provides SAG support. And so Mid-South is really unique in that it is a fully supported event. So many other events, you have to have your own support crew and your own food and your own everything. And they really, although Beth, I have a question for you about the aid station, but we'll come back to that because I encountered some issues at the aid station this year. Anyway, fully supported. If you need help getting off the road, they give everybody a number to call, and they do a pretty good job of shuttling folks back and forth. And one of the coolest things is at the end of the night, they all kind of line up in a parade behind the DFL and escort that person into town.
Incredible.
Yeah. And just really kind, generous people who volunteer their time. And I remember when I was DFL, I felt immense guilt. I was like, I'm sorry, I can't go any faster. Like, it can't be fun to be crawling along at 4 or 5 miles an hour. And they were like, we live for this stuff. Like, that is like the highlight of some of their years. I think they enjoy it when it's a little bit more muddy. This year was very fast and very dry. But how was that creek crossing for you, actually, Beth?
So I went around it, and actually because I was so far back, there was hardly anybody ahead of me. So that was a different experience. I know I saw a lot of the photos where, there's just tons of people trying to get across at one time. And there was like 3 of us. So it was totally fine.
It's so funny. Like you had almost like a deja vu experience of what I had the year before. Because same when I got like we're consistently slow. It's not like, we start out fast. It's like, no, we are going to ride the same pace all day long and we're going to get there. But that does mean that our day looks different.
It does.
So back to the aid station. Was there food when you got to the first aid station?
Yeah, there was some. There wasn't a ton, but I feel like there was probably enough.
Okay. Okay, that's good to hear. Because I think I got there maybe 5-10 minutes before you, and they had like taken down almost all the tables. I don't think I broke it. But I did the slip and slide. I don't know if you saw the slip and slide that
it
was
wasn't
there.
It
okay.
wasn't there. Yeah.
Okay. So I did the slip and slide twice, which was dumb because it was cold. And I like landed on my finger all funny. It was a day, but yeah. So I want to go back a little bit to this other person that you rode with, because I know at the very end, it was I almost hate it. I kind of hate what happened. And I haven't talked to Bobby about this yet, but I'm going to, because it really felt, and I would love to get your perspective on this, Beth. It really felt like, you both came across and because of the crowd, you know, they went across the finish line first and maybe 2 seconds later you went across, but really you came in together and then you got all of the celebration. And it's not to knock yours, but it's almost like they were like chopped liver. And I know you were very much like, we need to celebrate Alma, or Elma, we need to celebrate Elma.
Yes, I agree.
And I went over to the announcer, you know, seeing your kind of distress about this, like, hey, we need to celebrate this other person. And the announcer was like, I announced both of them. It's fine. But it really, I could see the disappointment on their face. Have you talked to them at all? You know,
I haven't.
No. Okay.
I definitely feel like she deserves some recognition for sure. I've had a lot of recognition, right? But there needs to be more for her as well.
Yeah.
You know, because the way the crowd was, we were going to try to ride in together and like hold our hands up in the air, but the way the crowd was, it was just so confusing. You can see how slow we were going. I think it was like overwhelming and confusing, and there was people everywhere because we thought we were going to just like ride across, right, like an open finish line, and then that's not what it was like.
Yeah.
You know, so I want to make sure she's recognized for sure.
Yeah. Well, Elma, if you're listening to this, we are so proud of you.
Woo!
And if our paths cross again, I want to make sure that you get the full recognition as well. Because I mean, you and Beth did it together. So this is us giving a little bit of recognition to our small listener base.
Thank you, Marley. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
You know, it's been weighing on me a bit too. And I was going to talk to Bobby about it as well. So if Bobby hears this, know that I want to talk to him about it as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, you know, it was interesting. So during the DFL party, we were getting updates from Ride with GPS. They have a command center above the bar, above that coffee shop. And they have little dots everywhere amazing. And they're just tracking everybody. And for probably the last 3 hours, we kept hearing like there's 4 people. You know, there was the couple, there was the 2 folks from Florida, and then there was you and Elma out there. And everybody was like, well, what happens if they all come across together? And that's what I was rooting for. Like, I wanted all 4 of you to come down the street and just be like, we're splitting that cow horn skull into 4 parts. But they came across, you know, maybe a minute or 2 before you did. Did you see them out there at all?
Yeah, they zoomed past us. I knew that they were back there. So we had a Jeep, and then we knew that there was at least one person was behind us. And I don't know if we were ascending a little hill or something, but all of a sudden they just like zoomed on past us. And then we met up with them at the start of the single track section, and they took off before us. And then we didn't see them again at that point. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, very cool. Very cool. Can you talk to us a little bit about that single track section?
I didn't ride it.
That's okay.
Yeah, totally petrifying at night. But the really kind thing that happened was, again, both Elma and I had really low lights because we were trying to conserve, right, the battery power. But Bobby's wife, Crystal, came with this like lantern. I don't know. It was just like, and it just illuminated like the forest. And so she went with us for the entire single track section, which I thought was really kind of her to do, right?
That is really kind.
So yeah, that was very like touching for me that she was like, hey, I'm coming. Wait, I'll help you guys out and give you some light. So
yeah, last year I did the single track in the pitch black and had no idea what I was riding through. And then when I went through it this year, I was like, oh shit, this is kind of hard.
Yeah, I was pretty worried about it. I'm like, I don't need to crash out here. So I have no problem just walking through this so that I don't crash out. But I also want to say that I really, truly believe that the Chaise lounge or Chaise couch, whatever you call it, wouldn't be there. And, you know, I felt really heartbroken about that. And, you know, as I was riding, I'm like, it's not going to be there. And I was so excited to sit on that couch because I ride a Salsa Cutthroat, and it was like meant to be that my bike was supposed to be on the couch. So I thought it's not going to be there. And I was really like emotionally happy and surprised that they waited for us.
Yeah.
And I think that was really meaningful, right? That they stayed out there a long time, just making sure that we got our chance to be on that Chaise. So
I have goosebumps hearing you talk about that because it really is special. And your photos are going to be cooler than everybody else's because the rest of us are bright daylight.
So my photo is easy to find because it's at the very end. I already looked at it and I'm like, I wonder how I find my photo. Oh, let me scroll to the end. There it is.
Nice. I haven't gone and looked for mine yet.
Easy to find.
But we'll make sure we put that a link to that photo gallery in the show notes. But Maggie, I want you to ask some questions.
Okay, I probably have some questions. Well, we've talked about like the race in general, but let's focus in now on the fact that, first of all, on this podcast today, we have 2 reigning DFL reverse champions. So let's just throw that out there. We are in the presence of greatness. We already knew that. But like,
Well, Beth mentioned, so we have like an internal Slack group channel, whatever. And Beth mentioned that like the gauntlet has been thrown, 2 years in a row.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of have conflicting emotions about that. Like, and Beth, I'm sure you can attest this. Like, you can't plan to be DFL.
No.
Like, you got to ride your ride, and whatever
Absolutely.
happens. However, All Bodies on Bikes is not an exclusive club. So
very true. Otherwise, I would not be allowed to play.
That's not true. That's not true. I think we could say optimistically that whoever gets it next year will hopefully be an All Bodies on Bikes person as well, since, we believe all bodies are good bodies.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Sorry, I interrupted your question asking, Maggie.
You're fine. You're fine.
And I just want to add to that I hope I never DFL again, right at MidSouth. And I told myself, I'm like, I want to ride this like every year. That just means I need to train a little bit harder, right? So that I'm not that slow. I want somebody else to know what that feels like to like accomplish something big, right? And to have that celebration at the end. It's really important that somebody else feels that. I kind of DFL events quite a bit. I just don't want that to ever happen again at MidSouth. And, I will make sure it doesn't happen. And part of me is like, I wouldn't mind doing like the 50 next year so that I can be there at the end. Like, I kind of was a little jealous seeing like the party and the shenanigans you guys were, having. I'm like, I didn't get to see any of that, because like came in so late, So there's that little piece of me that maybe I'll do the 50 next year so I can be part of that celebration, right? For somebody else. So,
and it was incredible having, been in that exact same spot literally a year earlier to watch you come across. And I had all those emotions myself of, wow, I remember what this was like to come into town and to be completely overwhelmed and proud and happy and sad. And, did you feel any sadness that it was over? To me, it almost felt like this was like the pinnacle. And damn, this is going to be over really quickly.
So not at the event. I mean, I was overcome with emotions. I mean, if you see the videos and the photos of me, I'm just like crying, right? And sobbing. So I didn't feel that at that point, right? I was just like, I just did this finally after chasing this for so long. And I can't believe what's like happening in front of me. Just with the party that was going on. So it was great.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And again, I interrupted you, Maggie. Sorry. I'm shutting up.
But the thing is, now we've answered all the questions that we had lined up there. Like, I know MidSouth, the 2 big things that people talk about, I feel like, are hugs from Bobby and the DFL party. But Beth, did you have like any frame of reference where did you pull into town and be like, oh, this is what I expected? What were your feelings when you pulled into the DFL party?
I was pretty overwhelmed. Like I saw like pictures, right, from Marley's DFL last year, but I'm like, that's because it was Marley. Everybody loves Marley. Everybody knows Marley, right? So as we came around the corner and like there was people like running down, right, the road with us, and they're like, here, take a beer, you're here, and just cheering and screaming. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, look at it in the distance, right? There's like all these people and there's music. So I truly wasn't quite expecting that, right? I mean, obviously I knew there was going to be something, but seeing that was just kind of amazing, right?
Yeah.
So, and then I just didn't realize like how many different types of people were there, right? I just, read a write-up that somebody did and shared pictures of me, and they're like, yeah, there was people from the community, there was pro cyclists, there was, people in between, and just like all kinds of people were there. So that makes me emotional to see, right? Knowing that it was just a whole different group of people from different backgrounds that were there. So
yeah. And you won't know this because you weren't there, but leading up, so basically everybody was in the bar, we were dancing, having a good time, and me and Kevin from Ride with GPS were tracking like 4 miles out, 3 miles out, 2 miles out, and when you got to 1 mile out, we basically turned off the music in the bar and said, everybody outside right now. And the music got turned back on outside, but the announcer Trevor kept talking about, hey guys, like this is really exciting, this is really important, but I want you all to recognize how hard these folks have been working. Speaking about you and Elma and the other folks, and talking about, yeah, you guys have been done riding your bike for 6-8 hours. You've already showered, you've eaten a meal. These folks have literally been on their bikes since 8 o'clock this morning, and really talking about how hard of an effort you put in. And I put it out to our Instagram followers, the All Bodies on Bikes account, what questions do you want to ask? And somebody asked, what's it like to be genuinely celebrated for DFL versus feeling like it's more for show? And I think because of the intentionality, and I want your perspective as well, but it really does feel like we're celebrating your effort. And it's not just, oh, we're doing this because it's like a feel-good thing. I don't know. Thoughts?
Yeah, I would have to say I agree with that. And especially with, I've just been inundated too with social media posts, and like all these people, I don't know who they are, have been posting about like, what it means to be DFL and the tenacity and just, so I definitely, maybe I didn't feel it completely like at the party. I mean, I did, but then just, afterwards, like everything I've seen and the messages I've been getting from people that I don't know. And, so I think it's amazing. Right. And yeah, it's easy to forget us slow people are out there for a long, long, long time. Like you said at the riders meeting, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and probably the midnight snack for me too. So yeah, it feels really good.
Another question we got was about your nutrition strategy. So how did you fuel during the day? What was your plan for that? Did it work? Anything you would change?
Yeah, for the most part, it worked. I have a hard time eating solid food on rides. I don't know why that is, but it's just like my body gets angry when I try to eat things. So I rely a lot on gels, and then some food. I do think, though, if I do something quite that long again, I have to practice eating, food. Because by the end of the night, I felt like the gels were, they were like poison. I don't know how to explain it. It was really horrible by the end of the night.
Do you have any idea how many gels you went through during the day?
I was trying to do like 2 an hour. So wow. I packed a lot.
Oh,
yeah. So yeah.
Maggie's face looks horrified.
I can't do the gels ever. So yeah. I'm bad at math, but I can do 2 times 16. And that's so many gels.
That last hour, I probably didn't eat as much as I should have because I was just excited and I wanted to be done. I mean, I had like a turkey sandwich in there, and at the end of the night, I was like, I probably should have made more of those because that actually, like sounds good now instead of gels. I don't like a lot of sweet stuff, but I do try to bring like those candy orange slices out of everything. I like that. I had some bananas. I'm trying to think what else I might have had in there, but mostly gels. I wouldn't recommend that. Definitely, I'm not a nutritionist, and probably wasn't the best way to go about it, but
it worked for you. You felt strong.
But
all
it
day?
worked. Yeah. I felt good all day.
I mean, I think, the key there, and what I've heard from many nutritionists is like, you just got to get calories, whatever those calories are. And if it works for your body, that's what matters.
And I did have some bacon at the first rest stop. I normally am like, why do you want bacon on a bike ride? Right. But it actually tasted so good. I'm like, oh, now I understand. That was like perfect.
It was good bacon too.
Yeah. I liked it a lot. I went back for more. So
yeah. And Maggie, you would have appreciated this. They had scratch margaritas.
Heck yes.
Yeah.
I do appreciate this ever so much.
I knew you would. I didn't have any because I'm still not drinking, but
right. That's amazing.
Yeah. I did run out of water out there. That's one thing. It's never happened to me. And I can't quite articulate like when that happened. I know it was in the evening, and I should have like filled up at the last, I don't know if it was an aid station or there was like the section that we passed where it was a split off, the 100 went this way, 50 went that way, and they had like a water station.
Yeah. Yep.
And I'm like, oh, I don't think I need that. And I should have, right? Because I ran out and I started to get a little panicked. But it was just like amazing. Like this, resident that was out like doing something in their yard saw us and we're like, are you guys riding still? Do you need water? And so she let us stop and use the bathroom and gave us water.
Oh,
Wait,
and
you
a
went to the
couple
bathroom
snacks.
in a random person's house
We
during
did.
Mid-South.
And she found us on social media and was like, "We are so proud of you that you finished." So yeah, she reached out to us.
That is incredible. Also, I love that you went to the bathroom in the middle or in somebody's house. Like,
Yeah,
that is the true spirit of community.
yeah, it was amazing. I'm gonna send her a little thank you note because I think that was just like awesome that they were willing to let us just come in their house and use their bathroom.
Oh,
and
that's incredible.
Yeah.
When I did Ragbri last year, similar. But that's like, you know, a whole different level of event. But that is so, so cool. Did you have any mantras that you kept repeating to yourself to push through the challenge, or, you know, anything you told yourself over and over?
Yeah, so I actually don't do that. When generally what I'll do is as the hours progress on, I just try to make like a little goal, like, okay, next 5 miles, you have 5 miles to go. Okay. And then I hit that 5 miles. Okay, now you have 5 more miles to go. So I try to break it up into chunks and not look at that big picture because I think that can get overwhelming and pretty daunting to be like, I'm on mile 20, I have 80 miles to go. You know, no, I have 5 more miles to go. Oh, I have another 5. So that's how I break it up. Now that didn't quite work once it turned dark, right? Because I mentioned I didn't have my light on and my head.
Oh yeah,
unit.
you didn't know what mile you were at?
Yeah, I didn't know. But I mean, I kind of know, right? After riding, as much as I have, I kind of know where 5 miles is,
Yeah. Well, let's talk real quickly. You've been doing 10 miles a day every day since January 1st, right?
I have been ever since January 1st. I've been in a challenge. Started off, I think, with 20 people, maybe 30 people. And we're down to 2 people. And yeah, I can't stop, but yes, at least a minimum of 10 miles a day I ride. So interesting enough, after I finished Mid-South, I slept for like 3 hours, if that. And then I got up and rode my bike for 10 miles around Stillwater on Sunday morning before
this is why people don't get us.
Because I'm like, I can't lose this challenge. Like I need to get my miles in. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it's funny. I did see a social media post by M, who I think is who you're competing with, saying that this challenge might keep going till next year. I don't know.
I know it might. It could. I'm not going to give up.
How have you found that to be like beneficial towards your mental health, or like what's been the impact of riding 10 miles a day?
Yeah, so actually it's been really beneficial. A couple of things. I mean, it has made me really consistent in my training, right? So certainly I'm not always only riding 10 miles a day, right? I still have to incorporate my training in there. But because I've been doing this so long, I can't find an excuse now to not ride, right? I rode through COVID, which I wouldn't recommend, but I did ride through being sick with COVID. I've made sure I've been able to ride. My daughter plays hockey. We go out of town on the weekends quite a bit. I bring my bike. I find some place to ride. We work it in, or I bring my power pedals, right? And change out the pedals on the bike in the gym at the hotel. So it's just become a part of my life, and it's something I actually look forward to. And it's made me really consistent with training. I hate being on the trainer. I have to tell you that. So that's horrible. But
do trainer miles count towards the 10 mile a day?
Yeah, any kind of miles will count. So
cool. Yeah, that makes sense, especially since you live in Wisconsin and typically there's winter, although it didn't look like you guys had a winter this year. And I can see your garden in the backyard and it looks like you're ready to go for the spring.
Yeah, it's cold out there though. Actually, I was pretty upset when I got back home, and I was wearing my flip-flops and my t-shirt because that's what I wore when I left Stillwater. I'm like, oh my gosh, it is like winter, even though there's no snow. So that was a little shock with the weather.
That's fair.
I also wanted to mention with that 10 mile a day challenge, it is a fundraising challenge. So Kevin, the person who put the challenge together, we had to pay into it. Essentially, half of the pot he's giving to Ride for Racial Justice, and then the other half is going to the winner of the challenge. And I've already decided, if I do happen to win, that my share I will donate to All Bodies on Bikes. So, and it's still open for donations. I just have to tell you that, so you don't have to be a rider.
We will put the link in both the social media post and the link in, or the show notes. But is it an easy to know link? Like
it's easy. Oh, no, it's not easy.
It's not easy.
No.
Okay.
No, easy. No, it's not.
No.
That is okay. Well, I only have like a couple of last questions. So you mentioned training a couple times. And I feel like I remember you talking about this last year. Have you been working with a coach, and what has that been like?
Yeah, I do work with a coach, Darcy. Oh my gosh, I just forgot Darcy's last name. Don't listen to this, Darcy. Darcy Murphy. Oh my gosh, from CTS coaching. It's been wonderful. I'm a challenge for her, and I know that because I'm not always as consistent, right, as I probably should be. Well, ever since January, I have been, but she's really helped me deal with just a lot of like fears that I have about the bike. And she's helped me be able to like push past where I think I should be, right? So she challenges me quite a bit. I'm slow. I'll probably always be slow, but she's really helped me build just a lot of confidence.
Yeah.
The bike. So
Yeah.
I'm very
I mean,
appreciative of her. Yeah.
I've personally seen your confidence grow, and it's been incredible to watch.
Yeah.
And I think other riders will look to you as a mentor now, especially, with your attitude of, there was never a time when I thought about quitting, and
No.
I know that I could do it. That's such a refreshing approach, I think, to long distance events. So
For
thank
sure.
you for that.
Yeah, and I definitely feel like it's not an obligation because that sounds like something negative, but I like finding the riders out on the course that you can tell they're struggling, right? And they're just doubting their abilities of being able to do it. And I think it's important to like raise them up and give them that boost. Like it's hard, but you can do it. All you have to do is keep moving forward. If you have to walk, you walk. If you can pedal, you pedal. But you just need to keep moving forward. Sitting down and feeling sorry for yourself and upset, it's not going to get you to the finish line. Just move.
Yeah.
However you need to move, just keep moving. So
I'm going to record. Well, I guess we did just record that. I was gonna say, I'm going to tell that to myself when I can't get out of bed in the morning. It's like, Marley, just one foot in front of the other. Yeah.
Yeah. That's all you need to do.
Well, Maggie, any last questions before we get into our two last questions?
I would say just like Beth, for the people that are sitting here going, yeah, I can tell myself that I'm out on the course, but I don't believe that I have a place on the course in the first place. What would you say to somebody that's doubting their ability or their purpose even to go out and do an event like this?
Everybody has a purpose, right? Everybody is valuable, and just because maybe you don't look a certain way or you don't have a big expensive bike or you haven't trained enough, just go do it, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what I have to say. Just do it.
Yeah. Do you have any other big events on your calendar this year?
I do. So, well, big events. I have a bunch actually. I have the Rough Road 100 in Illinois next month.
Is that another century?
I might actually change to a century because it's a flat course. So I feel like I probably could. Tim is going to be riding that also. Tim from All Bodies and Bikes because he lives down in that area. I have Unbound, Grounded Nebraska, SBT. I think that's probably everything. There might be some other ones in there. So
nice.
Yeah,
it's a full calendar.
Just a little full, yes.
Yeah. Well, one other question we got before we go into our very last two questions was, did you have like a high point and a low point of the ride? Specifically, they phrased it as a rosebud and a thorn, which I really like. But
yeah, I'll start with the low point. And the low point really was when it got dark, how just scared I was, right? And I really had to deal with that fear of I'm a city kid, city girl, right? I grew up in the city. So being out in the countryside where it was pitch black, right? And I could hear creatures, and normally I like creatures, but I could just hear things. And, I was nervous about being out there alone. What if something happens? So that was the low point. I was really fearful. I mean, I dealt with it, right? And I moved past it, but that was the low point. High point, I can't say there's one specific high point, right? Because I just had a lot of fun out there. I was able to meet people and see old friends. So I think just all of that was a high point for me. Yeah. And maybe just knowing, once I hit Stillwater that like, I'm going to finish this was amazing for me. So maybe that's the high point, just knowing like, I got this, it's going to happen. So
yeah, Dang, I love it. And I would be completely remiss if I didn't acknowledge that you're also an Indigenous cyclist.
I am.
I'm looking at your Instagram post right now. I would love for you to tell us what tribe you're from and what the connection to the land meant to you, and because you mentioned it in your Instagram post, and I would just love to hear more of that from you.
Yeah. So my family is from northern Wisconsin. We're part of the Bad River tribe of Ojibwe, or you can also say Chippewa. We prefer Ojibwe. And I think what was also very meaningful, and I mentioned this in my post, that, Bobby and crew acknowledge, right, the land that we're riding on and the land that, a part of. So that's important. I just see a lot of events where that just isn't acknowledged. Even in northern Wisconsin, some of these athletic events, there's no like acknowledgement of that. So that was pretty special for me.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And I had meant to bring it up sooner, and I apologize that I didn't bring it up sooner. But yeah, I'm so insanely proud of you. Just like I've mentioned
Marley.
it probably 3 or 4 times now, but just seeing your confidence grow. I remember our first Steamboat Gravel call. I think you said something of I feel like an imposter. I don't know that I can do this.
Mm-hmm.
And hearing you talk about now that, no, I'm strong, I'm slow, but I'm strong, is just it's not even a transformation. It's just growth of who you always were inside.
Yeah. And I truly hope other people can feel that too, right? Like other new cyclists. I think it's an evolution, right? You kind of have to, if you're coming in with those feelings, it'll take some time, right, to feel like you belong, but it'll happen for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you. Maggie, anything else before we wrap up?
I think we're set, other than freaking congratulations.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Have you caught up on?
I was going to say, I'm still riding the high, but I'm also feeling some of the lows today. So
Okay.
It's a hard day for me. I had a really hard time. Like I jumped right back into work, and I probably should have taken I should have taken a day off, because it just has been such a whirlwind of a day, and I'm still getting tagged in a lot of social media, and so yeah, just processing all of it. It's just been a little overwhelming in a good way. Right.
Yeah.
I say that. So, but I probably needed a day off, but
if you ever want to talk about it, that has kind of been my life for the last 3 years of, these insane dopamine highs followed by a crash. And thankfully, it comes back as soon as I get back out on my bike and ride. So that's my best advice to you is, obviously you have been, because the 10 miles a day challenge, but just getting out there and riding. So, okay. Our very last 2 questions. I have a hunch of what the first one might be. But what is your perfect day outside?
I love riding my bike, right? And
no, what?
Imagine that.
We should have talked about that.
But not only riding my bike, but I love being with my friends, right? And I love meeting new people. But on the trip to MidSouth, I got to stop in and see AC on the way down, and we went out riding. And that
AC is our Kansas City chapter.
Kansas City, yep. Sorry. And that was just so amazing, right? I just got to ride, and it was a beautiful day, and that was perfect for me.
Nice.
So,
amazing.
Yeah. And then Maggie, you want to take the last one?
Let's do it. So you talk about bikes a lot, and you're getting to talk about them even more these days. What's something else about Beth? What's something you wish you got to talk about a little bit more?
Yeah, I'd love to talk more about my Indigenous background, right? And kind of what that means. And I'll just say this, I'm white presenting, right? So a lot of folks don't realize, who I am, who I truly am because of that. So yeah, that's probably something I'd love to talk more about.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to bring that up next time we hang out or have a phone call.
Cool.
Because I would love to learn more about that and what that means and where your family comes from and all that good stuff. So
thank you.
Yeah. Beth, this has been an absolute pleasure. I hope you get some downtime soon. My biggest recommendation is turn off notifications on Instagram. It's has saved me so much mental anguish. Those little dopamine hits are great, but just turn off the notifications.
I might have to do that. And I actually am pretty tired. Good thing this isn't being visually recorded, because I got bags under my eyes here.
Yeah.
So,
well, congratulations on an absolutely epic ride. I can't wait to ride with you again. It sounds like I'll see you sooner rather than later at Unbound.
Yes, actually, you're going to see me at the bike packing weekend. So.
I will also see you at the bike packing weekend in May.
Yes.
Speaking of, couple quick all bodies on bikes announcements. If folks have seen the photos, which you will also see for this post, we have kits now that are open to the public. We partnered with Champion System to make them. They come in kid sizes through 6XL. Turns out to be fairly true to size. We've heard the sleeves are a little long, but if you get the short sleeve jersey, you can adjust the sleeve length. But if you go to allbodiesonbikes.com, the kits are there. Beth, you wore the jacket. Did it fit well, perform well, all those things?
Yeah, I think it was great. I love the fact that it didn't ride up, actually. So many like jackets and, everything, it just rides up, and I didn't have that problem.
Yes.
So.
We love to hear that. And I wore the jersey, the long sleeve jersey, and the vest, and those also did not ride up, even though they were a little snugger on the hips, which is typical for me. So go get your All Bodies on Bikes kits now. And then one other announcement. Well, we've got a million events coming up. Check out allbodiesonbikes.com for all of those, including every week we're doing a Zwift ride on Monday nights. It is the only time I get on the trainer is Monday nights. And but join us. We have a Discord channel and we just talk and we use the banded together function so you can ride as slow or as fast as you want. So allbodiesonbikes.com/events to get all that info. And finally, we have a bike packing trip coming up in Western Massachusetts over Labor Day weekend. We're partnering up with the Venture Out Project, which works to get queer folks into the outdoors. And that trip, we're actually charging money for it because of insurance, and we're partnering with this other group. But there are still 3 spots available. So you'll get to bike pack with me and Jacob, who is our Western Massachusetts chapter leader. But please do check out allbodiesonbikes.com. We've got resources there. We've got events. We've got merchandise. We've got a lot of stuff going on. So
yeah, we do.
We do indeed. And Beth, this has been a joy, and go get some rest.
Yes.
I'm going to try. I have to get my 10 miles in though first.
Oh, okay.
All right. Well, daylight's fading, and go get your 10 miles in.
Thank you.
This is an All Bodies on Bikes podcast powered by Feisty Media. The show is produced by Maggie and Marley and edited by the team at Feisty Media. Thanks for listening.
Are you tired of getting caught in the rain with poorly fitting, flimsy rainwear? Well, let me introduce you to Cleverhood, makers of thoughtfully designed, durable, and size-inclusive rainwear. Cleverhood is designed by women, but is made for everyone who wants to embrace the elements and enjoy the ride, no matter the weather. Cleverhood was born out of the need to make rainy days into happy days, and with multiple choices of styles and sizes, all bodies can stay dry, visible, and happy. Maggie and I especially love their rain cape. Literally, the only thing you need to fit is the head hole. Otherwise, it just fits. It's so cute and functional, and I feel like a superhero when I ride my bike in it. All of Cleverhood's designs have reflective elements thoughtfully integrated, including an option to customize it with the All Bodies on Bikes logo. They're also sustainable, with most of their fabrics made from recycled fibers and PFC-free DWRs. Social sustainability matters to Cleverhood too, and they only work with certified producers who follow labor and environmental standards, and they give nearly 5% of their profits back to community organizations, including All Bodies on Bikes. So whether you're commuting on a dreary morning, walking your dog in the rain, or waiting for the bus, Cleverhood is a great option. And remember, you can use the code ALLWEATHER for 15% off of your order.